So, hello. I'm sure most all of you know that I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, and I don't see how a supreme being could rule over the universe. Well, I changed my view on this subject. I actually do believe in God. Well, I can believe in God and can conceive of how such a being can exist. You see, I think the reason most people, when they consider what God is, they consider God a four-dimensional being just like themselves. They believe that God exists basically like a superior human being and is just capable of performing miracles in our fourth dimension. Well, I don't find that to be the case, as we can't obviously see a four-dimensional being. So instead, though, I think a being might exist in the fifth dimension. Now, how does the fifth dimension work? Well, do consider our four dimensions: length, depth, width, and time. We have time as a fourth dimension. The fourth dimension goes along in a distance we can't control, much as depth occurs in the third dimension. Depth can't be controlled if by a third dimensional being, much in the way we can't control time in our four dimensions. So, let's consider how the dimensions work. First dimension is length. Just one way. Length cannot be altered by being in the first dimension, but the second dimension, length and width, there are two dimensions. Length can be multiple things, whereas width is constantly controlled in a direction no being in the length first dimension can control. Now, then what is the third dimension? Well, there's length and width, which are ever changing, and depth, which is consistent for all portions of a length and a width of the same value. So length and width can be of any value, whereas depth is constantly changing from one point to another point in the third dimension. Now, of course, let's consider our fourth dimension. Length, width, and depth are ever changing and can be multiple values at multiple times. But the fourth dimension, the dimension we cannot control, is time. Time is ever changing from point A to point B. For instance, this video started 3 minutes ago, and this video started 3.5 minutes ago, and is ever changing. I can't go back 3 minutes, much in the way a being in the third dimension can't go back to change its depth value like that. It just happens that time is our dimension that's ever changing at a constant rate forward. So, it is thus my belief that there could be a being that changes time like we change depth in our fourth dimension. There's a being that changes time much in the same way we can change depth in our four dimensions. So that explains how a fifth dimension might be able to exist. It can change time much as we change depth, and a being that would exist in this fifth dimensions is what we would call God. I think God, if it exists, it would be a fifth dimensional being and can change things throughout multiple times, much in the way we can change things throughout multiple depths. So, there you go.